Our next speaker is one of New Brunswick's foremost defenders of life. He will deliver our keynote address on the theme of this year's march. Messieurs et Mesdames, j'ai l'honneur de vous présenter Monsieur Thaddée Renault.
Jose, we love you. Chers concitoyens, fellow New Brunswickers, the numbers just boggle the mind. It's estimated that more than 4 million Canadian unborn babies were sacrificed on the altar of self-indulgence since the door was opened to abortion on demand in 1969. In addition, Statistics Canada tells us that 491 unborn babies surviving failed abortions were left to die without care from 2000 to 2009. Why, I ask you, would a society which has assumed the right to kill infants in the womb because they are unwanted, imperfect, or merely inconvenient, have any difficulty in assuming the right to kill other human beings, especially older adults who are also judged unwanted, deemed imperfect physically or mentally, or considered possible social nuisance? Life is exalted when it is enjoyable, but there is a growing tendency today to stop respecting it when it is sick or experiences some kind of disability. So, no one should be surprised at the coming embrace of euthanasia. After Canadian legislation deprived the unborn of their right to life by declaring them non-persons, it was only a matter of time before other categories of human life deemed to be inconvenient or unwanted would also face extermination in order to benefit unloving family caregivers and cash-strapped governments attempting to redefine assisted suicide or euthanasia as health care. L'histoire l'a souvent démontré. Lorsqu'une société perd son respect pour la vie humaine à son tout début, le chemin mènera inévitablement à l'euthanasie. Les dangereuses lois autorisant l'euthanasie n'auraient pas été possibles si elles n'avaient pas été précédées par une législation qui légalise l'avortement. Once the respect for life at its inception is lost, the way will lead inevitably to euthanasia. Euthanasia is now the law of the land in countries such as the Netherlands, Denmark, and Belgium. Et il semble maintenant seulement une question de temps avant que le Québec n'adopte le même type de meurtre légalisé qu'on pratique en Hollande, Belgique et au Danemark. Advenant ceci, le restant des provinces suivront inévitablement l'exemple du Québec. And it now appears only a question of time before Quebec adopts these countries' mercy-killing legislation as its own. If that happens, the rest of the provinces will likely fall like dominoes. Public opinion is being greatly influenced by pro-euthanasia media, highlighting heart-wrenching cases of suffering. I cannot remember a more one-sided presentation by the media of an important social issue. Polls taken following presentation of these high-profile cases are usually overwhelmingly favorable to doctor-assisted suicide and are based on the false hope that strictly regulated guidelines will prevent any abuse. Well, experience has proven otherwise in those countries that have those guidelines. In Belgium, the total euthanasia cases officially reported to regulatory authorities show an increase from 24 cases in 2002 to 1,133 cases in 2011. This, folks, is a shockingly overall increase of 629% in just 10 years. In addition, studies in 2012 found that in the Flanders region of Belgium, 32% of all euthanasia deaths were being done without explicit request. That nurses are carrying out euthanasia, even though the law specifically prohibits nurses from doing so. And that up to 47% of all euthanasia deaths go unreported. One statistic from Holland, where guidelines are supposedly observed, they're frankly gruesome and show a steep rise. There were 1,923 reported euthanasia deaths in 2006. The number has risen to 3,695 in 2011. As for the number of unreported deaths, they rival those of Belgium. Dans chaque juridiction où l'euthanasie a été légalisée, ces partisans affirment que seuls les malades en phase terminale ou victimes d'incessantes douleurs seront tués ou aidés à se suicider. Au contraire, les adolescents, conjoints en bonne santé, gens déprimés et personnes souffrant de troubles mentaux, toutes ces personnes et d'autres encore ont été directement et ouvertement mises à mort en nombre toujours croissant. Sous prétexte d'esprit humanitaire, nous assistons à la normalisation du meurtre des gens considérés inutiles. Une fois que nous acceptons le principe que tuer des gens améliore la société, tout peut nous arriver. Once we accept as a society the policy that killing people makes life better, anything can happen. In coming years, there will be pressure on the middle-aged or elderly to die if they are sick. Moreover, we should fear that therapeutic euthanasia to reduce the number of supposedly burdensome elderly will be easier to sell to a generation that already thinks that abortion is acceptable. For once the door opens to killing anyone who is sick, disabled, or elderly, that door will keep on opening wider and wider. Before long, many people who are unwanted, whose so-called quality of life is judged too low, or who are simply taking up valuable health care resources, will be eliminated. The Dutch now have approved euthanasia for children born with disabilities, for people with dementia, and they have even approved mobile euthanasia clinics that offer door-to-morgue service for people whose doctors are unwilling to kill them. Those favorable to assisted suicide here in Canada say it will never go that far. It could easily go way beyond that. Euthanasia advocates fighting with such zeal for the right of others in Canada to be euthanized should beware of the unintended consequences of what they wish for so fervently. Decision makers in our dysfunctional society could very well come to believe that the lives of those advocating so passionately for euthanasia are also okay to eliminate without their consent. Canada, for God's sake, please don't cross the Rubicon on euthanasia legislation. Thank you.